One of the pieces of work that you've done, which certainly had a huge influence on me, was your description of floor area ratios in Mumbai. Why don't you walk us through this? Now, this starts in the 60s, right? With an imitation of the British Town and Country Planning Act, right?
Yeah, India, like most former British colony, has a Town and Country Planning Act that I think is still there. And the idea is that, again, planners can shape cities according to an aesthetic view that they have. And of course, Mumbai at the time was a mercantile city, built by merchants. So most of the buildings were already, 4 or 5 story high and pretty dense. It's an island. It was an island. It's a peninsula. So the land is difficult to get, and so it was pretty dense. And they decided that in order to prevent congestion, that was their own word, they would lower the floor ratio. That means the height of building, basically. And so they imposed...
So the average, just to be clear on this, these are average heights. So I could build, if I've got 1 hectare, I could build on, and I have a floor area ratio of 1.25, I could build on half of it to 2.5 stories, or a quarter to 5 stories, or
Yes. So in a way, they were putting, they were saying that if you demolish an existing building, and you will be allowed to build only 1/3 of the floor space that this building had, which of course for any developer is absolutely impossible. Which means also that there were very little.
This was under a floor area ratio of about 1 1/4. Is that right for much of the?
Yeah. So the floor ratio was about 4 in the old town, And so they imposed a 1.33. And 1.33, it looks like a magic number, but in fact, it was based on the idea that there should be a backyard and a front yard, and that the building will be 3 stories. So if you balance it, it gives you this magic number.
So this growing megacity is supposed to be a city of 3-story buildings, all of which have front yards and backyards.
And backyards, yes. And that, by the way, for commercial area as much as residential, they didn't make any difference.
So Mumbai puts in this floor area requirement in the 60s, and how does it unfold? Do we get a garden city of moderate density that faces no congestion? And
density keep increasing, but what keep decreasing was the consumption of floor space. People were, say, middle class in the 60s would have probably 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, maybe 60 square meter, and after that, then they will reduce to 1 room, and then now you have 60% of the people living in informal settlement within Mumbai, not in the suburbs, and you have a lot of middle-class people I work with at the Department of City Planning living in slums, illegal in informal settlement. They have been pushed into it because the slum, because they are informal, then they adjust constantly consumption and price and income, where the other are not. And after some years, this became untenable. And developers, of course, were as you can imagine, were lobbying. So the city decided to make exception. And to trade, you could buy land use right. You could buy additional floor ratio if you were doing something that's a city like. And again, the reaction was, because you had this draconian regulation, then you had an enormous leverage on developers. So then they, if you developed a park, after that it was, well, if you provide low-income housing for slum dwellers, and you could have an extra floor ratio, increase the floor ratio. But instead of allowing the tallest building close to, say, subway station or actually the railway station, suburban railway station, they thought that those railway stations were too congested, so they will allow tall building only at least 2 kilometers from public transport.
one of these strange things about it, and it comes out of these floor area requirements, in Mumbai is you'll have these tall towers, but they'll be surrounded by some green space that was needed to accommodate the FAR requirements. And it means that, I mean, it may be nice, it may not be nice to live in it, but it means you certainly need to use a car to go anywhere you want to go.
Right. I will not try to simplify, but land use regulation only entirely based on an ideal design without understanding the dynamic of land prices, income.
And how people will cheat as well.
If a regulation is draconian, people will find a way around it. You know, it's a bit like the black market in the Soviet Union. You know, it was an absolute necessity. But one of my colleagues at the bank was Indian. You know, had this sentence that the regulation in India criminalized real estate. Mm-hmm. You could not build anything without being a criminal. That means either bribing your way away from regulation. There was no other way.